This podcast was recorded on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation.
Guys, welcome back to the pod.
Yo.
What was that, Lachlan?
I'm mixing it up.
Okay, well, can you at least make it more interesting?
If I just go, hey, they'll just think it's like a template every time they, listen to us.
But they're used to it.
No, I'm mixing it up.
All right, Lock's grumpy dad vibes today. So, look, guys, we like to think of ourselves as relationship experts, but let's be honest, we're not. So we've decided to get someone in today. Her name is Dr Lurve. We're very excited to speak to her about all things relationships, especially around this time of the year, which sometimes can be a bit touch and go. Then we've got an Ask Mum and Dad, where we have a sibling and a partner who are unfortunately not getting along super well. But first, I have found something incredibly juicy in my phone. It is a pros and cons list about Locke from 2017 and whether or not I should message him. Now, Locke, have you ever written a pros and cons list?
Yep.
About something like this?
No.
Okay, so what are your pros and cons lists usually about?
Oh, mainly about like a business decision or something or things that could go right and wrong with a path I'm taking in life.
Okay, I feel like a lot of women will be able to relate to this because I think at some stage most of us have written a pros and cons list that is to do with some sort of situation, relationship like this.
Do you normally do it by yourselves or in a group? Like would you sit and do it with a friend? Or just...
Both.
Wow.
But in this instance, I was alone, and I'm really glad I was because this, honestly, it's a bit embarrassing. Okay, so I've actually opened with the pros.
Can we actually open with the cons so we can end on the good stuff?
All right, let's open with the cons. Might get rejected, number 1. Number 2, might get ignored. Number 3, might get ignored, then rejected. Number 4, might feel like f***ing shit. Number 5, might look like an idiot. Number 6, this one's my favourite, he doesn't even follow me on Instagram.
Wait, I feel like they're not cons, some of them.
What?
Because I feel like reaching out to someone, I always say this, it's a win-win in my opinion, right? So let's say you reach out to me and I knock you back or I go like, hey, I'm not really interested. Like you've done it. So you've conquered that little thing, right? So you've built confidence doing that. And then like you have an answer. So so you've got clarity and you can move on. So like, and you feel good because of doing it. Like, and I'll feel good because I'll get a bit of an ego boost because you've like reached out and I can see you're interested. So even if I'm, in a relationship or something, it's like a nice thing regardless, So
yeah, I mean, in hindsight, but in this situation, I'm assuming something's going to happen here, which is, maybe a bit negative. So I don't think we were in a place where it was like all fine and dandy. It was maybe a bit turbulent and I wanted to reach out to you anyway.
I don't get that doesn't follow you on Instagram. What's that con of
Well, you
of
didn't follow me and I found that that made me upset.
Yeah,
so
but you said that there's
a
con of reaching out to me. So what could potentially happen if I reach out to him? He doesn't follow me on Instagram. Well, I don't follow you. So
I just threw that in there because I wanted to remind myself that you didn't before I made my decision.
You're just keeping receipts to get angry at me.
He doesn't even follow me on Instagram.
7 years in the future. Love that.
All right, well, let's go through the pros.
I feel like they're good cons.
This list is shorter, so I don't know what I decided here. Pros, might have some company. Might have a good night.
You could have had that with anyone.
Yeah, I know. It's not really...
You go hang out with a friend.
It's not really painting you in the best light at this point.
Could have some company.
Might have some company. Might have a good night. Sex, ? Dunno. Dunno, didn't know about that one. And might have fun.
I feel like you could have just said one of those and it kind of encompasses all of them. Like, have fun, you could have just said. That would have encompassed the company, having a good time.
I know. But I had
to
to make the list longer so that it didn't look so bad next to the cons list.
Nice, appreciate that.
Anyway, I have a feeling I did message you. So this was 2017, which was the second time we dated, right? So,
hope so.
I mean, wherever it went, we've obviously landed in a good place.
Yeah, well, that shows what you're pretty much telling people is that you can have a larger con list, a smaller pro list, and it can still work out.
No, but some of the cons were repeats, like might get ignored, might get rejected, and then I put them both into one.
Yeah.
Because, had to remind myself. And then might feel like shit. It's kind of it's the same thing again.
What would have made you feel like shit?
Being rejected.
So if I just said, hey, I'm not really interested.
Well, no, or if you just didn't reply. That's worse, I think.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I feel like ghosting is like what people do now.
Yeah, but
So you're
not when
saying
you've
every time-
already dated once and then maybe you've started seeing each other again and you don't know where it's going.
Sure. Wait, so were we seeing each other?
I don't know. I have to
would've
check
been
the
pretty-
date.
That would have been pretty weird if I
It
didn't
just
reply
says
to you.
2017.
Oh, okay.
We would have interacted somehow. Anyway, beside the point. What do you think of the pros and cons list?
I mean, it sounds like you didn't really give it that much deep thought, if I'm being completely honest.
This-
Like the con was like, might be bad, and the pro was like, could be good. You didn't really do a deep dive yourself, I think.
This was enough,
I
really.
think you might have given it like 2 minutes thought and then went, I'm doing it.
Yeah, I think I did, if I'm
Yeah.
being honest.
It's to be honest, it reminds me a lot of the pros and cons lists that you make in life, really. Like, I feel like sometimes they don't have a lot of thought into them.
Me?
Yeah, like sometimes when it's about like, do we need a new piece of furniture or something, and you do a quick pros and cons list. And
I don't
feel
do a
like,
pros and cons list. I just buy it.
Yeah, but I'm saying sometimes it needs a bit more thought. Like,
Why?
Or measurements, for example. Like one time you
Oh.
got us a coffee table and it was like
No.
it was like 10 centimeters
was
by
bad.
18 centimeters.
Look, the
And
photo made it look really big.
and
I didn't check the specs.
Yeah, it came to us and it was like 10 centimeters by 18 and it looked like it belonged in a dollhouse.
Yeah.
And you
well,
told me we're getting this really nice stone table for the
no,
house.
and it was, the worst part is it was custom made, bless.
The worst part is that you told me that you'd looked at the measurements and it's all good.
It looked big in the photo. Like, what coffee table comes that small?
Yeah, but that's not looking at the measurements. That's looking at it just by eye. And not
Yes.
everything's to scale in an image.
I don't know who the coffee table was made for. Like, it would look, yeah, I agree. It's for a dollhouse.
I'm confused. You said that it was custom.
Custom, yeah.
So how do you have a custom one?
I
that
chose
has a
the
photo
stone
already?
and they said, we'll make this table for you. And I said, love it. It was a collab on Instagram. And I said, that looks amazing. Thanks, guys. And then it arrived and I went, this is stupid. It's tiny. And doesn't suit the space. And I messaged him and I said, look, guys, I've made a grave error. And I actually told Locke I measured the space wrong. However, I never measured anything, which is probably worse.
Well, they probably made it going like, I wonder what she wants this for. Maybe she's got a beautiful dollhouse or something. And they probably just made it for you.
No, they just said pick off the website, so I chose.
So you've wasted their time,
looks good.
resources. Did we got another one, didn't
They
we?
must have had it in front of a one-seater couch and made it look like it was bigger, honestly.
Might look like a footstool.
Yeah, it was tiny. Anyway, then they made us a whole new one. They were great.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's gone off the pros and cons list a little bit.
We still have it, guys. If you guys need a coffee table, Euromarble make really good coffee tables.
Wow. Just free adverts.
Well, I feel like I need to shout them out because they just made me a freshie when
nice.
I didn't check them. Hopefully they're not listening. Anyway, moving on.
I reckon you've spoken enough on the pros
I
and
think
cons
so.
list.
Let's talk to Dr. Love.
Please. All right, guys. Now the pros and cons list about Jad reaching out to me is done and dusted. We can finally get cracked into chatting today with Dr. Love, who we have in studio, which we're very lucky to have with us. And it's an interesting time of year. We get to the end of the year. It's the Christmas period, festive period. Work finishes. We got more time with our partners, more time with their friends, more time with their families. And I just wanted to ask you firstly, what's the most common problem you see, like sort of spark in relationships this time of year?
Financial stress is one of them. Yeah, one of the big ones, financial stress. Managing in-laws and extended family, how you can do that and where they spend their time. So whose houses it is. Are we doing Christmas Eve here, Christmas there? Are we doing it at our house? And also Christmas obligations, so work events, staying out late, alcohol-fueled evenings, a little bit more than usual. So they're probably the three things that show up.
So booze, managing
Booze,
family.
financial and family.
Financial. Okay.
Yeah.
With financial, what's like I would say in our relationship, we have probably different spending habits.
Yes.
I won't say who's got who. You can just, whatever, make it up in your own
He's
mind.
talking rubbish again.
What is like? What's your best thing? Like, what's your best way, or how do you help clients like sort of navigate that stress when obviously like it's a time of year where spending might go through the roof, and different people view it in different ways. So.
Absolutely. So with spending habits, I think it's just like anything else in the relationship. You need to have a conversation about what that looks like. So what's What are your boundaries? What do you both collectively agree on in regards to your Christmas spend? So if you're doing lunch at your house, do you agree it's going to cost a couple of $1,000s to host everyone? And is that going to be in the budget? Do you put money aside all of November and December so you don't feel it all at once? So you're preparing. For gifts, it might be, okay, what are we agreeing on? If we've got, 5 nieces and 5 nephews, are we spending $50
That's
each?
10 Chubba Chubs.
Right? Oh, well, Chubba Chubs. Are we just, what colour? You might have to agree on the colour. And is it the one with a whistle at the bottom or are you doing the standard, right? So there's a conversation that needs to be had, just like anything in your relationship. Finances is the same. And basically, whether you're buying a home, investing in a property, or spending at Christmas, it's still a conversation.
What do you do in a situation where you're just not agreeing? Like you're both on completely different, pages and you're not really coming to a resolution. And one of you really wants to go all out and one of you is like, no, we're not spending any money on Christmas this year. How do you navigate that?
So I would see that as a relationship issue.
Okay.
Straight away,
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter whether it's doesn't matter whether it's Christmas, Easter, a holiday away to Bali. The way you spend will look different. So one might want to do really luxe and 5-star resorts, and one's happy to stay in a hostel and just put a backpack on and go. That is a relationship problem because you guys can't negotiate to
Right.
get to a point where we're both feeling like we're being heard and we can be considerate to the other person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that then just a lack of compromise
Absolutely.
essentially in the relationship in general?
And probably bad communication.
Okay.
Okay. So, you're not feeling heard. You're not feeling like you're hearing what I'm saying. You're not hearing my needs and the way I want to have this experience. Basically, it becomes like a head-to-head competition and you guys start to be at each other. It doesn't work. So there's underlying relationship issues there.
Can I ask then, let's say hypothetically it's Christmas time, we're going on a holiday. As you said, someone wants to stay 5-star, someone wants to stay hostel. Is the compromise 3-star or is it 2 nights 5-star, 2 nights hostel?
Don't ask me because I'm going 5-star. I don't care.
Classic, me too, Jad staying at the hostel.
No, but it could be,
Like what does the compromise look like?
It depends on the couple, right? You might go, let's do our first bit of the holiday and let's, put a backpack on and head out to the rice fields for 3 days and then let's lux it up for the next 4 days in Nusa Dua somewhere, right? And just, I guess, a bit of both worlds.
Sure. So there's no right or wrong.
No,
as in like not one
there's
person's
never-
more deserving.
no,
You should
absolutely
appreciate
not.
what your partner wants.
No, yeah. And it could be like this time let's do Lux and next time we're going, we're going to pop on a bicycle and head to Vietnam. We're going to do it that way. Like, let's just, what's going to work for the both of you and how do you both feel heard and satisfied?
Sure.
If you had one piece of advice then for people who are navigating financial disagreements at this time, what's one thing that they can actually do right now in order to improve that situation?
Sit down and obviously what you don't want to do is have conversations like that when you're in a heightened state of emotion. Because what happens is that when you're feeling flooded, we call that flooded when your emotions are just coming through and you can't communicate. I don't know if you've experienced that, but when you're really
No,
having
Jad's
an
always
argument.
very cool.
Oh, she's a
collected.
cool.
I'm just a
You're a
cool
cruiser,
chameleon.
Are you fibbing again? I don't know whether to take him seriously. I'm like trying to work him out, right?
I can be a bit hot-headed.
Yeah. Okay, it happens. And so when you're like that, that's when you don't have the conversations because you don't really get to a compromise or you don't really get to a solution. It basically becomes a fight. And then, maybe it doesn't stay a fight about how you spend the money. It becomes a fight about, you really scummed out on our honeymoon 10 years ago. And then I remember when you did this with your mum and you didn't buy me that gift and you bought it for her. It becomes about everything else. Like you could bring all this other unresolved stuff into the conversation. So you've really got to come out and go, okay, it's almost like a business meeting. Like this is my paperwork. This is what I feel like is the priority for me. What is the priority for you? And there's this negotiation, communication. Just sit down with a piece of paper. And just like me today, I know that if I'm not organised and don't have a piece of paper for this podcast, I'll blow out. Yeah. I'll talk too much, right? So just be prepared. Take your piece of paper. These are my points. Make a time for it. Honey, I've got, I really want to talk about Christmas. Can we put Friday afternoon aside for an hour so we can work it out. So give them the heads up. Don't spring it on them. They're at work, they're trying to take a call and you're saying, hey, I need to spend this. And they're like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
That's not fair because you set them up for failure, not being able to have that conversation properly. Give them the heads up.
Yeah. And say Friday comes along and you're both having a bad day.
Yeah.
You're not still sitting down and having that conversation. You're going to bump it to a day where you're both in a really good place.
Yeah, or a better place to
Yeah.
be able to do that. And it's about self-awareness. You've got to take some responsibility here in how you're going to show up. If you know you're going to show up to that conversation and already be irritated about something else that's going on, it's your responsibility to say, hey, babe, I know that we're having the conversation today at 4:00. I had a really bad day today. Do you mind if we shift it to tomorrow morning at 8:00? And then usually they're going to be like, yeah, sure.
That's great.
Like everyone wants a resolution at the end of the day. Yeah.
Awesome advice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What about, for example, if your partner, you have those sort of conversations, but then hypothetically they go out and they do the spending anyway, as in they don't really listen, they don't really respect what you say.
Yeah.
What are you laughing about? You don't do that.
Yeah. Well,
You know what I mean?
We
But as
just
in-
have different interpretations of what a budget is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you aren't
Jad
clear.
adds
You
a
haven't
few
been clear,
zeros.
right? Maybe you guys actually haven't had the proper conversation about what the budget looks like.
No, we haven't really. Let's be honest.
We
There's
do.
an assumption.
But
Oh, she's not listening.
no, we have the conversation, but Jad likes to define her own words. So budget, it actually says doesn't mean what it actually means. It's just like a roundabout figure, and if you go up or down and whatever.
So she's got like a buffer of
Yeah.
a few $100
thank
each side.
you.
Yeah.
I've got
That
a
makes
budget
A few
buffer.
$100 every day.
It's
each
like
side.
when people are sort of looking at their weight on the scale, they've got a buffer, like that's their average, like 1 or 2 kilos before, above and under.
Yeah, the
It's
scale
almost
could be
similar,
wrong.
right?
If it was a scale,
budget's
for Jad,
Depending
it'd
on
be
where you
like
are,
Yeah.
right?
10 kilos either way. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm doing the girl thing now. I'm like,
You're right. I knew it was going to happen. Yeah, but hypothetically, let's just say that,
Yeah.
you have those conversations, you think they're respectful, and then, something goes on and you're not really heard and listened
Yeah.
to, and your partner goes and does whatever they want anyway. Like, for example, you said you spend a few grand on the Christmas lunch and they go all out and they go way over budget, and that
Yeah.
puts, extra pressure. Like, how do you navigate those
well, the
conversations?
first thing that does is break trust. Yeah, like those things chip away at being able to trust your partner to hear you and then follow through with what you have agreed on.
Sure.
And what you'll see is that actually behaviour doesn't just sit in financial. It starts to seep
Trickle,
into other areas of the relationship. So
Of
it's definitely a
course.
relationship issue, because if you're had an agreement with your partner and you've gone and done exactly the opposite, there's an immediate lack of respect.
Sure.
And then is that relationship for you? Like I have a quite a traditional view around relationships, and respect is very important and just as important as love. So yeah, you can love someone, but if you don't respect them, the relationship doesn't work.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay. So there's an element of respect there.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Earlier on in the pod, you mentioned that one of the biggest issues that people face is around, for example, having difficult family members. Or what's your advice for dealing with difficult family members around this time of the year when you don't have a choice? You absolutely
Yeah,
have
often
to
the
interact
interactions
with
are
them.
forced,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost an obligation, right? You've got to, and I'll be quite stereotypical. You've got to invite the mother-in-law, right? It's not always the case. It could be someone else. It could be a sister-in-law or a family member. But you already know as a couple which family members are triggering to each other, right? So there's an element of preparation here. And I'm not going to say this happens, that when your mum comes, you're feeling uncomfortable, she might have digs at you. So you're preparing prior to everyone coming, okay? You're saying, okay, babe, what are we going to do when mum does this? We know she does this. After she has a couple of drinks, we know that she's going to act like this. What are we going to do? Because we really want to have a good day. And it might be that you create a type of a safety scenario where you're like, okay, well, if she does that, when you look at me or you give me that look or you send someone out and say, hey, can you go ask him for the napkins, it will be a bit of a cue for you to come in and say, hey, honey, can you get this for me? And it's almost like your exit out, like so removing yourself from the situation without being so obvious.
Sure.
So create sort of safety plans for yourself for the people that you know that are going to show up and be triggering.
Okay.
Because you already know what they are. I mean, you avoid them most of your relationship. Basically, you're like, oh, I don't want to see them. I know what they're like. So just plan ahead. The other thing is don't feel ashamed to say, you know, I'm a bit uncomfortable about this conversation today. It's not the place. Can we pick it up another time? And that's okay.
If a confrontation starts.
Yeah, like if
is that what you
something
mean?
comes, say, like, I really want to hear what you got to say, but it's like we've got people, like, let's pick this up in a more private space. Today's not the day, but we will follow it up. So basically hear them, say, not the place, we'll come back to it.
Sure.
So they're not feeling like they've got to keep getting an answer or a reaction from you right there and then. Don't feel ashamed to be able to say that or do that.
For our listeners who might have someone who's a bit more stubborn and not willing to go, sure, you know, let's pick this up another day.
Yeah.
What would you do in that scenario? Things
Yeah.
are getting a bit heated, perhaps. Maybe you're trying to walk away and you're being followed, and you know it's kind of getting a little bit intense.
Yeah.
What would you do in that scenario?
So that is when you are tag teams in a situation. Don't do it alone. Okay, that is when you actually look over your shoulder and say, where's my husband?
Yeah.
Or, you know, where is my wife in this situation? Because it's very tricky when you are trying to deal with your partner's family, because there's almost like it's not my family, it's his or hers, and I don't feel like I have a right here to say this, and I still want to respect my partner. It's his mum or it's her mum or her father. So this is when you're a tag team and you're sort of doing the look, and you need almost a bit of an out here.
Of course.
So rely on each other, okay? You know that that's their behaviour generally. That's not something that just shows up at Christmas. That shows up generally in their personality most times. They're the people that when you call them and they want to have a conflict and they just keep going and going, even if you say, I've heard you, I'm sorry you feel like that, like, or can we talk about this when we see each other? I don't want to do it over text, and they just keep going.
Yeah.
There's that lack of respect to boundary.
Yeah.
And sometimes you actually just need the partner to come in and say, hey, mum or dad, I'm asking you, let's do this later, not now.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
Do you think there are any families out there that just have smooth Christmases? Because I really don't.
Yeah.
You do?
Yes.
Ours aren't too bad.
Yes.
Yeah. But there's always just like
There could be something
some
niggling.
little niggle. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and you don't always know, but you can just sense it. Like you just get a weird vibe sometimes. But
it
good to know there's hope.
depends on like smooth. Does that mean perfect? Right? Because is there ever an instance where everything's just perfect?
But I think, like you said before, it can be as simple as like the little dig comments
Yeah.
that someone has, and then they make those comments. But when the other 15, 20 people hear them, they know that there's something going on under the surface, which kind of creates that awkward
Awkwardness.
environment,
Yeah.
and everyone sort of knows they're on eggshells. So it might not erupt into an argument, but they know that because two people are feeling a certain way about each other, they need to kind of shy away from I don't know,
it
having a good
creates
time.
an
or-
underlying feeling of this.
yeah.
There's a bit of discomfort.
Yeah,
like
sure.
people are noticing that someone said something to each other, and they go along the day pretending that they didn't hear it or it didn't happen. It's that. I get that. But there's some families that just don't do that, and it might be the ones that aren't overly, under the influence, that are feeling like they're a bit looser, or they're, just every family dynamic's different. Can't
Of course.
pick it. Yeah.
Of course. All right. Well, if you had one piece of advice, I would say for, our listeners who are, in relationships and they come here for a little bit of advice and, they're getting a bit anxious leading up to this Christmas period, what's one thing you would suggest they don't do to ensure that they have a nice, smooth, relaxing, love-filled summer?
Don't overcommit,
Oh.
basically.
To each other or?
What does that mean?
Overcommit, like it could be to each other. It could be to
events
events, family obligations, overcommitting to, a lot of the time we get stuck on what the festive season should look like,
Sure.
and to create this perfect idea of Christmas, or like what our holiday looks like. People are striving for the greatest Instagram posts, and and that's quite a superficial thing, but we do overcommit, and we don't have to say yes to everything. So basically, if you want Christmas to be a time for you to relax with your immediate family, make the time to do that. Don't be afraid to say, look, no, I can't make it, or hey, I've decided that I'm going to say yes less, and I'm going to do that this Christmas. But it's people overcommit through their Christmas period.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And I guess that would make it not as relaxing, which would then, the chinks in the armour would start
Absolutely.
to show. So.
The Christmas and the Boxing Day, and then, you've promised your girlfriends to go out Boxing Day sales. You want to relax after Christmas, just
Sure.
call it.
All right. Well, Dr. Love, we really appreciate your time and thank you for coming and actually, some words of wisdom instead of just waffle that we normally give people. So we appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
And
Thanks for
I
having
dare
me.
say that we wouldn't mind getting you back because I have a few more questions for you. I want to focus a little bit more on the other side of relationships, the breaking up and the negatives. So
Yeah,
I'd love to
let's do it.
I'd love to get some words from you on that.
I'd
but
love to be on the Waffle podcast.
yeah. Well, it was lovely to have you, and it was nice for you to bring a little bit something different. But thank you for coming in, and we appreciate you.
Thank you
and
so
I hope you have a
much.
lovely festive period, and whoever you're spending time with, I hope it's smooth. And you got all the arrows in your quiver to deal with it. So
I don't know. That's a lot of pressure for me. It's like she's supposed to be everything's perfect. Her relationship's supposed to be perfect. Like, it's a lot of pressure.
You sound more well equipped than most. But we appreciate having you, and we'll have you back in a couple of weeks
Thanks,
to discuss
guys.
some more
Appreciate
topics.
it.
So
I'll
thank
see
you
you
so
soon.
much. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Now, after we've just had that lovely chat with Dr. Love, we actually do have a question that came at a great time because it sounds like this person is struggling a little bit with what they're going through at the moment, and it's aided by this time of year. So the question comes in today for our Ask Mum and Dad segment, which says, my boyfriend and sibling don't get on. They're both to blame, but more so my sibling. They think that they've tried to make an effort, but now want nothing to do with each other. I'm the one stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I feel like no one is considering how it makes me feel. Yes, I've also told them this. It's just so hard that I have a niece and feel like my partner has nothing to do with her because of the situation with my sibling. I feel so extremely sad and don't know what else to do. Long story short, my sibling had a drug and alcohol addiction and treated me like absolute shit. My boyfriend had had enough of seeing him treat me that way, and when we were having an argument one day, he stepped in and spoke up, which my sibling didn't like. Since then, 2 years ago, they have hardly spoken. My sibling had recently made an effort to make amends, which my boyfriend didn't reciprocate. I feel like it's just an ego thing, as my boyfriend says that sending a text wasn't enough for his actions over the years. Both of them blame each other and say neither have made an effort. I can't push the conversation anymore with my boyfriend, so I'm the one stuck between the love of my life and the sibling who I also love so much. Especially coming to this time of year, it just makes me want to be alone and hibernate. He also isn't invited to my niece's christening in a few weeks. What do you guys think?
That's so sad.
Yeah, it's not a nice situation to be in because I always think about this. Like, I feel like we're very lucky in the fact that I feel like we get along with each other's family quite well, and we rarely have hiccups like that. But that's a huge hiccup to have a graft in the family of 2 years. But I also can kind of appreciate like where your partner's coming from. If I saw someone like treat you like my wife unbelievably poorly for years, like that would put a huge like wedge in my relationship with the person treating you poorly. And I probably wouldn't just forgive them simply over a text, like I'd want to see their behavior change for a long time. And, I'd probably want a conversation, not just a text message. So I also sort of get where your partner's coming from, but.
So you're saying it requires a bit of time.
Well, I'm saying it
partnered with a bit more effort.
If you're treating someone horribly for years and then you just say sorry through a text message, like I feel like you need to show that your behavior's changed and you've changed your ways, for a longer amount of time, and perhaps a conversation is more of like a adult way of going about things on a text message.
But what if this person felt embarrassed about their actions and the text was the most that they could kind of pull together in order to make amends?
Well,
and that was their way of actually giving 100%.
Well, if that's the most that they could do and it's not accepted by the other party, then that's, both their prerogatives to do so.
Well,
the boyfriend doesn't have to accept the text apology regardless of if it is 100%. If he wants more and thinks that, himself and his partner have been treated horribly and a text doesn't suffice, then, I guess that's, up to him.
It is really unfortunate, though, especially if this person's tried to make amends and patch the relationship up to be received in that way. It's just really sad because, what's your priority in this situation? Is it your ego or having harmony in your family and with your partner and with what they're asking of you as well? Like, it's unfortunate that she says she's kind of chatted as much as she can with her partner already and she's doesn't know what to do now. Like, that's really hard. My heart breaks for you. I think in this situation it sounds really difficult, and it sounds like you've done as what you can at this point. The christening thing's really shitty as well. Like, sorry, not inviting someone to a christening that's just really difficult too. But I think my advice to you is try to find some kind of common ground that they have and maybe bring them together without them maybe, like, I don't know, knowing that it's going to happen, or some sort of family setting where they both might enjoy bowling or playing pool or something. Like, can you try to get them in an environment where they're having fun together and not actually thinking about their past? Is that a possible situation? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I feel for you. It's horrible, and I wouldn't, wish that on anyone. Families being ripped apart over little things. Like, it's
not like little.
I mean, we don't know what's happened over the 2 years, but just poor treatment. But I don't know. I feel like your partner has every right to feel that the way he does. But I think also, if you explain to him that family means a lot to you, and this disharmony is like, it's affecting you quite a lot, and perhaps you could even say to him, like, you might not want to be his best friend, and you might not, truly accept his apology. But if you could, like, put on a brave face and just sort of like accept him when we are around the family for the small periods that we are around them, it might just make for an easier time as a family altogether.
But she said she's already done all that, so you've got to give something else. We need a new avenue of support. That's why I suggested bowling.
Yeah. I mean, I actually, I kind of smiled at that. I didn't really think that'd work, if I'm being completely honest.
Imagine getting them
you
together.
Don't tell them. They both rock up at Kingpin Bowling and you go, surprise, guys, time to bowl.
I don't mean just them two specifically and you. I meant, like, if the whole family's getting together, perhaps, you maybe leave out the fact that your brother's going, and then hopefully they're doing something fun together, like playing a round of tennis, or swimming in the pool, swimming in the pool with the kids.
So you reckon 2 years of, like, poor behaviour could be countered by just a couple of strikes and party pies?
I think anyone can be manipulated into anything if done really well.
Awesome. That's a great message. That's a great message for everyone.
No, but in this case, the manipulation is for the greater good, and it's to manipulate them into having a good time. That's a positive manipulation.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't really know what else to tell you other than, like, I think you just have to sit down with your partner and have these conversations, and even if it's like have them every 2 months, Yeah, but I'm saying time heals all wounds, right?
Right.
So maybe they're not at the stage where they can sort of find harmony just yet, but maybe 4 weeks time you try again, 4 weeks time you try again.
I think laser tag.
All right, Jad, you got bowling, laser tag. Me, you've got actually communicate with your partner and let him know that maybe sucking it up would help the family move forward, even if you don't want to be your brother's best friend.
I mean, that's the obvious answer.
Maybe it's the best bet, but tough situation to be in, especially this time of year. Everything does get a little bit heightened. Jad's got a lot of activities that your sibling and partner could do.
Get together
I don't really
Christmas
suggest
Day.
bowling balls and, like, pieces of wood between people that aren't really getting along. Could wreak havoc, but you're definitely welcome to give it a go. But all the best this time of year. Merry Christmas to you and your family, and
good luck.
Yeah, I feel for you, but hope it's still a nice
Thanks
Christmas.
for writing
nonetheless.
in.
And guys, if you did want any help, as bad as some of the help might be sometimes from Jad and I about just activities you could do together as a struggling family, you can feel free to email us at madaboutyou@novapodcast.com.au, or feel free to DM either of us. And
DM Lachlan. My DMs are full. I'm not seeing them anymore. It says 70 new DMs and I can see one.
Bit of a flex, but all right.
Sorry.
I'm so popular, guys. Yeah, message Locke, he's not as popular. He sees your messages. He gets like 3. All right, guys. Merry Christmas. It's not actually Christmas yet, but, Merry festive period.
Merry festive period.
Yeah. Enjoy your last few weeks at work. And, get
guys,
excited
Merry
for Christmas,
festive period. Yeah.
Keep your eyes in the sky, and hopefully you'll see Santa.
Cool.
See you next week, guys.